Welcome back to Adobe Illustrator CC. This tutorial is entitled the Width Tool and the Warp Tools. So the Wit Selection Tool, which is kind of strange, a width tool, comes with the Warp Tools. So if I hover over this unusual looking icon here, hold the mouse down, I can go out to the tear out bar and click on it and release everything. The way these work are very interesting indeed. So I'm going to cover the Wit Selection Tool first. I'm going to grab a regular brush tool, paintbrush, and draw it a line. And right now what I have selected is the standard chalk brush here that comes with the charcoal feather, which comes in your brush palette. If I had selected one of these other calligraphy type brushes, the Wit Selection Tool would not work. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. I'll select this one and draw a line here. So the way the Wit Selection works, if I go over this line here, you get the little Ghostbuster symbol, basically the null set, which says, no, you can't use it on this type of brush. So certain brush strokes basically doesn't work, but you'll notice on this one, the most of the artistic ones, basically it'll allow it to do it. So you can see a little plus symbol next to the cursor as I hover over it. And the way this works, if I click and drag out, I basically make the stroke bigger and thicker. And I can add additional points, so I can have it go from thin to thick, and basically just pull in and out whichever way I want. Basically drag towards the stroke or away from it to make it come in and out. Pretty easy to do, and what's really nice is you can taper and basically create your own unique kind of stroke in the aftermath. So I can go from thick to thin, maybe here it opens up wide at the end. And all that's done with this one little tool here. So that works with strokes. So in a way it kind of makes sense that you're warping a stroke with that, but all these other tools work with shapes. So let me go ahead and draw the shape here, and I'm gonna click on this curve arrow here to swap the fill and stroke. And you have to have the shape selected in order to adjust these, but basically these warp tools like this one here will essentially warp the shape, and so I can basically grab it, and as I'm warping, I'm essentially creating new vertice points along the edges. Now you can change the size of your brush here by double clicking on it, and you have options here. Right now it's set to 100 point. You can change angle and so forth. You can use the hotkeys, which are shift and alt or shift and option, to kind of drag inwards and out at an angle. But sometimes this is a little funky, sometimes it doesn't quite work, and if you release the shift, basically you get a squash kind of effect with the brush as I grab and drag it. But it's a real quick and easy way to navigate and make some interesting shapes. Very organic sort of way of working. The next one here is a twirl tool, and the way it works, you just click and drag and it starts to twirl. So as you click and drag, you get this little twirl action. If you hold Alt or Option as you're dragging, it twirls in the other direction. So as I click and hold Alt or Option, and if you double click on it, basically here you can set to pin pressure. You can adjust the twirl direction, so forth, in these options. So I'm going to cancel out here. The next one is the Bloat Tool, I believe. Yeah, if I hover over it, it'll tell you. Or no, the pucker, and then the bloat. So the pucker, what it does is it kind of squishes things down to a point, and basically right now it's set really strong. So if I double click on it, I can adjust the intensity here. So I can go to the drop down menu on the right here and choose something a little more appropriate, maybe 20%, and now it'll be a little bit more controllable in terms of the action here. And then I can switch to the Bloat Tool, which will actually poof it out, which right now it's doing quite a bit. Again, if I double click on it, I can change the intensity to whatever I want. So maybe on this one I'll go down to 10% and click OK. You'll notice it saved the settings for the last tool because these are all sort of weirdly linked. Scallop Tool has some options in here, but essentially what it does is it creates these little points. This is the one that I find the most useless because if I click out here with the black arrow and release, you'll see I have all these extra vertice points and it hasn't done much. You can pull them out further, granted, with like the Bloat Tool. So if you want to push them out further, you can. and with the pucker tool and adjust them that way. But I find those two kind of useless. The last three are pretty much that way. The crystallize basically gives you these kind of funky points, and then same with the wrinkle tool, just kind of wrinkles the line along the way, gives it kind of a jag quality. I mean, it can be nice to give you a little bit organic quality. So if you're working with highly detailed illustrations and you don't want anything perfectly smooth along the outside shape, this is a great way to create some unique qualities. So that's the basic introduction to the Wit Selection or the Wit tool and all the warp tools in Adobe Illustrator CC. See you soon.